feel like Alex is going to come into this match like, I expect to win this match. And I also expect Alex to win this match. But if Francis expects to win these types of matches, then this is the one that he needs to win.
100%.
Please prove me wrong.
And I think that's what a lot of our younger players coming out of college players have to really get, really understand. We saw many notables, just meet a different, just didn't meet expectation. The expectation, maybe it may have been too high.
This is what I do. I say, welcome to the Best Three podcast. I'm Alvin.
Yeah.
That's still Torrey. We are in a brief respite here between the second and third rounds of the Australian Open. As you alluded to, or as we talked about before we started rolling, this has been a very interesting tournament to this point, in that it hasn't been all that interesting.
Right.
And I think the interest that we're talking about, if you think about the French Open, I guess maybe specifically Wimbledon, all those seeds, the bloodbath going out early, right? Players in the middle of the year, lots of players at ranging levels finding good form to, supersede their prior results from the year, taking out big seeds. Right now, what we're seeing, and a lot about what we're going to talk about today, is how difficult it is or has been for we'll use next gen, specifically for those who are actually next gen, like formerly ATP next gen, but also that next generation of player, the younger player on both women's and men's side, to, in this tournament, in these last 4 or 5 days, to really make an impact early. Because,
100%.
I just kind of by quick count, on the men's side, our top 16 seeds, we've only lost one, and that was Felix going out due to cramp. Right. On the women's side, we've only lost 3 of the top 16 seeds. That's and 2 of them were in barn burners. Most notably, Belinda Bencic went out this morning to Bartonkova in an amazing match. An amazing match. The girl brought her Muhova Jr. energy.
Yeah, she did.
But yeah, so I know you wanted to talk a little bit about. Let's start with the men's side here. And we typically come at these slams a little bit differently every single time, right? It's for the most part, it's the same people, but what's going on in the year and what we've seen in the early rounds kind of dictates how we talk about it. So I would say for this particular exercise, I don't think we really need to talk about seeds 1 through, let's call it 6. There's not much.
No, not much to discuss. I want to pick up where you left off there about next gen, specifically to want to talk about João Fonseca and Alex Eala. I know we talked about guys first and girls, and I just want to mention those 2 as poster childs for expectation, perhaps a bit hasty, right? To dole a lot of these expectations on these young players. They had some good weeks, Alvin. That's what they had. And we are right in our mind to expect good things. I would say 2 or 3 very, very early bullet points. They're still young. The best is yet to come. Let's not put them on the expiration date so quick. Number 2, let's not expect great things from them just yet so soon either. Some of our best of all time took 4 or 5 years to win a slam, Sir Roger being one of them. So we have to appreciate even the great Rafael Nadal, while he took to the French Open fairly quickly, it took him almost 8 years to get to the second week of the U.S. Open and some of the hardcore tournaments. So I say that to say there's even some of the great ones, if we measure them by 17, 18, 19 years old success, there are always your outliers. But I just think it needs to be mentioned that Jannik Sinner, our number 1/number 2, didn't really receive a lot of that until later on. So I wanted to preface all those comments with that, and all that to say, when Yao went out first round, and so did Alex, a couple of good matches, he didn't play terrible. They just didn't come. They came out maybe a bit flat, maybe didn't have the best match. But it also, to me, speaks more to the depth of the tour nowadays.
Right.
And while we're just a little too quick to dole some of these, this young player is going to be the next one to win a slam, he's the first of the top 2. Stop. Just stop. He's going to be a good young player. Don't put that on him yet. I'm old enough to remember when we started talking about LeBron was going to break all these records over, over Kobe and over MJ. And I'm like, the kid's coming out of high school. Give him some time. Now, in the last 20 years, right, LeBron has proved himself. Do I still think he's past LeBron, past Kobe and Michael? Not really. Do I think he's made his place in the game? 100%. Is he one of the greats? Absolutely. So I say that to say only recently, I'm talking the last 5+ years, has he really, to me, moved in that upper echelon of that. And I'm talking one of the game's greats, but you're
Right.
comparing him to that level. So I want to just mention that for Yao specifically and for Alex. I just feel like, in tennis, it's not like, man, you are measured, man. You're measured so specifically on a metric that is so unforgiving. You've got to do this 12 to 16 weeks and beat the other, top 20, top 50 in the Grand Slam scheme of things, top 100 or so in the world, who are all at different peaks and different times in the week and in their prime or whatnot. And buddy, you get 4 cracks at it, but buddy, those are 4 real tough cracks. And so I just want to make sure I want to preface this whole comment to say I'm not going to say they underperformed. I'm going to say the level is much harder than most realize. And I feel there good things on the horizon for them.
Well,
Not this year, but let's not make this seem routine for them to, climb K2, is all I'm saying.
Well, let's look at these two players separately, though, right? Because I think the reason that we found ourselves with both of them being out in the first round is a little different for both of them. While their profile and the reason why we're talking about them is probably the same due to their success last year. Yao Fonseca, right? He has had some. I mean, he finished up the year quite strong, and then 2025, and then had some injuries, some back things that have, I guess, chronic back issues that have plagued him since juniors. Kind of flared up, kept him out of competition. He came into the event saying he felt fine and that he's looking forward to the season ahead, but also unseasoned, right? He has played no matches, competitive matches, since probably
the indoor season of last year.
The indoor season of last year, right? So,
right.
For a young player, when we talk about what we expect out of them, I think the thing that goes unsaid, which is kind of understood, is that if all goes to plan, then. Right. You're talking about natural progression of progress as growing as a player being one thing, health being one thing, the team, stability around them being one thing, like all these things. If all goes according to plan, then they will X. And I think that still holds true for Fonseca. But when you start talking about back issues, right? Same thing with Arthur Fils, right? Like he's got some back issues and he's been out since Wimbledon of last year, French Open of last year. So that's something to keep an eye on. So, with him getting through that match, even talking about a player who's been on tour for a little while but hasn't really popped yet, Elliot Spizzirri, taking him out pretty early. Elliot was ready for the opportunity. You come in a little undercooked. Elliot's 24 years old. He's former college player, one of 26 in the main draw, which is insane. He was ready for it, and that's like one of those. Yeah, under normal circumstances, I'm sure Fonseca probably handles that match, but these circumstances aren't normal and rarely are they, right? We always have these things that pop up. And then I think the Alex Eala version of that conversation is a little more about the tennis, right? We've found ourselves in this situation with her a few times now in Grand Slams. I think if you go back to the U.S. Open, she had a pretty solid win early against Clara Towson, was able to get through some adversity in the back end of that match, but go all the way back to her match against like Krejcikova in Wimbledon first round. Alex has this thing where she comes out guns blazing, right? Oftentimes the crowd is behind her, and that's kind of another point I'm gonna get to later. And then once the excess jet fuel burns off, and she ends up in a match with someone who might have a little more pop to their game, that's when the holes start to show up. The lack of firepower starts to show up. And I think to get through a professional tennis match, especially one that goes the distance, 3 sets on the women's side, you're going to need to be able to step up, win serve, win points off of your first serve, one, and then dictate and hit through the court with your forehand, two. And I'll give credit to Alicia Parks in this particular case, playing against Alex
Played great.
Eala, who got,
Yep.
was it a bagel in the first set? I think it was a
Yep.
bagel in the first set, and
Yep.
then I watched part of that match, especially that first set. Crowd is everywhere. Where this is the Grand Slam of the Asia Pacific, right? Like
100%.
Eala
100%.
should have probably been on a bigger court, and the fans were on top of the court. It was a fantastic, fantastic venue for professional tennis. But kudos to Alicia Parks for getting through that match, like getting through all that
Yep.
adversity, and then
Yep.
letting the tennis do the
Right.
do
Do
the
the
talking.
talking. Yep.
Yeah.
I want to push back on. I think it was the tennis for both of them, to be honest. Yao, again, all thoughts him being hurt and dinged up. I get that. I'll stick with Eala first. Alex Eala's second serve is still a weakness. It's not
Yeah.
by any means has it been corrected. While she's very good, and you mentioned some great things about dictate play, control the center of the court. She's a lefty, obviously plays very strong off that forehand wing. Backhand's very underrated, in my opinion. But you just can't do much if you're retrieving the dadgum second serve into corners. And
Yeah.
she's not phenomenally fast. She's not extremely tall. So her
Right,
court
yeah.
coverage is now limited. And when you're serving up that darn cream puff of a second serve, we all know, Alvin, the return of serve is the weapon in the women's game. So you're going to go out there on break, and her serve let her down a little bit in the first, and Alicia had, for her part, served great in that match. Had a few nerve doubles, but for the most part, served great when she needed to close that match out. Especially with all of the antics of the Eala crowd and the Philippines fans all around. Great to see the fans, by the way. That to me is part of what
Absolutely.
Grand Slams bring, especially Australia. You're likely to see all kind of people come out of the woodwork. It's like there's a strong sample of every country in in Australia. There might be a strong contingency from Uzbekistan. I mean, we got to. I mean, you just don't know who you're going to see in Australia. I remember being there years ago with Sko when he played with Novak, and every match they played doubles together. Every match there was this whole Serbian crew that just followed around. There was probably 30 people going match to match. They were watching every Serbian in the draw. Back then it was Ana Ivanovic and Jelena. What's my girl's name?
Dokic?
No, was
Dokic.
Dokic? Yeah, was it? No,
Dokic,
I
yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not ringing a bell. The two girls that were topping the tour at that time, Jokic, I thought was earlier than them. Long story. Yelena, I don't know why another J is coming to my mind. Bottom line, obviously, and Novak were coming up to speed, and they were watching everything. They were still. Anna was still finishing out juniors at that time before she were making that point to that turn into the women's tour. But they were at everything anybody Serbian was at. Period. It was just funny to watch, and they had the flags on like capes, and they're going all over the court. And you saw that for everybody. There was a Brazilian out there. There was a Brazilian crew out there. If there was somebody from Japan, but you name it, they were there to support their players. So I say that to say that's something you have to expect with Australia in general. It's a very diverse country, and especially at the Slam is well represented. Back to tennis, Alex needs to fix the second serve weakness. I could say that for about 2 or 3 players in the top 10. I could say that about players like Emma Navarro. I could say that about players all the way through the top 30, top 32 seeds, as well as many others, but her in particular. And hats off to Alicia to play that well and to keep her nerves and to keep her mind focused. I actually thought she played better as an underdog, to be very honest with you. And that's one of the things that I feel like that's where I see it's about the tennis. She matched up okay. Her defense isn't great. Her build and neutral is really good, but she has to be neutral starting at 0, not starting from negative. The same thing goes from Yao. Yao's got a good game now, but his forehand's actually a little better than his serve. And the problem, the good part about those things are he's got some skills to build with. But if you get first strike first, Yao looks to be very average. Now, I say that with I said it before. He's just not fully developed yet. He's going to get it.
Still a young guy.
He's going to get it. He's still young. He's still going to understand it. And let's face it, all through juniors, all through the first levels of the tour. He didn't need much more than that. So we're starting to see, much like Coco in a lot of ways, she got through with speed. She got through with that backhand. Then you get to the top and you realize how much more you may need. And then you get back to development, maybe change some changes on the practice court, maybe even some change in coaching, but you start figuring it out. That's what the tour makes you do. It makes you continue to develop and continue to see how much more can I churn out of this package that I've been dealt with. So I feel like both are good. I just feel like they're going to need some more seasoning. And it looked to me, both came into this tournament looking a little more the same, not looking different, like they shifted gears. And that's
Sure.
what I'm looking forward to them doing the next, frankly, for the next slam, but of course for next year.
I want to go back a bit and talk a little bit about Grand Slam tennis, and then we'll come back to that particular part about young players and serves and whatnot. I think someone brought this to my attention, and I kind of have been peeling over it for a couple days. Under normal circumstances, right? And this is the way that we evaluate not necessarily just players, but matchups, right? This player's playing this player. Okay, they have this strength and this weakness. Okay, then this is probably how this match is going to go, right? And that is, I think that is under a certain understanding of like, if this match were played in a test tube or in a lab somewhere, particularly on hard court.
Yeah.
Neutral speed, hard court, yada yada yada, so on and so forth, right? And but tennis is a game of variables, and I think one of the variables that has to be considered is the environment of a Grand Slam is very different than the environment of your run-of-the-mill 250 or 500, right? It's not just that the top players, like step up their game at the big events. Like, well, I've said this before. I think I probably stole it from Andy Roddick. It's just like, tennis players would play well every single time they got on a tennis court if they could. They would play. There's never a time when a tennis player gets on a tennis court and goes, I want to play 80% of my ability today. Because that will be just fine. That will be just fine. That never happens, right? That never happens. But the thing that changes between, let's say, the Australian Open and Indian Wells and Charleston, right? Charleston and the Austin 125, right? You might get the same match. Let's keep it on the women's side. You might get the same match at every single one of those events, and the format is exactly the same, but little things change. One, the size of the courts is sometimes different, right? That has its Medvedev effect, if you will, right? But then there's also, like you brought up earlier, the fans. People travel for Grand Slams typically, right? From all over the world. And if you come from Uzbekistan, or you come from Croatia, or you come from Argentina, and you saw this in the Echeverry versus Kecmanovic match, right? Argentine faithful was there from ball one, and they carried that man through the fifth set.
100%.
That brings a different factor into it, where it's almost like a Davis Cup or a Billie Jean King Cup match, where you have these fans who are very pro one player, less pro the other player, and it has a real impact on matches. Players who don't thrive in those kind of scenarios don't get that lift. You saw it with Alexandrova in the first round, right? She got herself into a very bad spot where she isn't the kind of player who will gel with a crowd. And I can't remember who she lost to in the first round, but that the other person had crowd support 110%. It just was a bad scenario for her. It happened to her last year as well at the same event. Like, Australian Open is the middle of summer in Australia. People are happy to be there. It's the happy slam. It gets a little rowdy. U.S. fans you can hear them screaming, chanting USA, which tends to help some players, right? And it tends to put other players in a position where they're like, what the hell is this? What am I supposed to do with this? So I think that's
happened with your girl. Happened with Peyton Stearns and Marchenko last night, and I felt like she almost dwindled a little bit with all the pressure from the. I got to think she's Serbian as well, from all the pressure, and it fired Peyton up. You know what I mean? She was ready to go. She used it as fuel. You know what I mean? Tackling fuel, so to speak, from old
and she has this happens a lot with the former college players, right? Peyton played at University of Texas. She has that experience of like being in a tennis match, hook 'em, and everyone's just yelling, and you can either take it or you can shrink from it, or it can become coming against you, and it can fire you up, right?
Right.
Peyton Stearns is a great example because the same thing happened to her when she played Venus, the crowd in DC
Crowd.
last
That's
summer.
right. That's right.
The other side of the coin is like,
It
I guess
flipped
she learned
against her.
from it.
Yep. And to
Exactly,
your point,
exactly,
Bartukova last night with benches. I mean, the crowd could not have been more behind her. You know what I mean? So again, to your
absolutely,
point,
absolutely.
and I think what I want to add to your point, Alvin, is not only are they different, not only is the prize money different, not only is the stage bigger, right? Everything is a little more. I'm going to say it just has a level of permanence, a level of status, and a level of, I think it was the great Ray Lewis, big time players make big time plays in big time
Big time
games,
plays and
right?
big time games. There you
Right.
go.
Now, if I hope I'm giving the credit to the right person in that one. I'm pretty sure it was Ray Lewis. The point I'm getting at is this is tennis's big time game, right? And so those 4 slams, not to say that 250 win wasn't as legitimate. It's still in record books. It still goes in the head to head when you look up WTA Tour and ATP Tour stats. But that win in the slam means different. It just, borrowing the term for Australia, it hits different. And so what
Yeah,
I see is that the player who wants to step up, who enjoys the stage, and I don't see this happening near as much as I used to see this back in the day. Gamers enjoy the stage. And Alvin, I have to tell you, a lot of times there are players you can tell that don't enjoy the stage. It's not just they're not playing well. They don't enjoy the stage of professional tennis in the crowd, in the stadium. They prefer to be on court 16. They prefer to be on, you
right,
know,
right.
one of the practice courts. Being in that moment, you have to have a little bit of a gamesmanship to you. You got to have a little bit of a personality larger than you are personally. You have to kind of enjoy that, and you have to have this mentality like I have trained my whole life to be in a moment like this, and not a lot of players have had that personality, let alone have that level of confidence. And I think for the tour professionals, thinking back, kind of bringing my whole point back together, they've learned, even if they're not comfortable with it, they've learned to be more comfortable to be able to enjoy it. And players that are still kind of getting there, kind of earning it, you can tell when they feel a little bit naked out there. They feel a little bit out of place, and especially if they're not playing well. And perhaps they'll still get it right. And I think that's something that they can continue to develop. So to me, it's being in front of a camera. It's being knowing how to make adjustments quickly, knowing when to take your time and not let the moment rush you or break you, and also knowing to really lean in and make some balls at the right time because you know the players feeling it right now. They are about to self implode if you just put a little more pressure, to borrow a phrase from Brian Shelton, squeeze that lemon. You know what I mean? Put a little bit more pressure on them at a point where you think they might just burst if you add just a little bit more to what they're doing.
And it's also that point. It's also, you know, how much can you rise to the occasion as an entertainer, right? Because
Right.
when you're out there on whatever outside court it might be, there's, especially at a Grand Slam, there's still going to be people all around, and
Right.
now they are a factor in the match. Can
Yep.
you get them on your side? If
Right.
they're not on your
Right.
side, can
Right.
you can you
Or
block them
quiet them.
out?
Right. 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 Right.
Right. Exactly. And when to do it, how to do it.
Yeah.
You
Right.
see your opponent struggling a little bit. How do you start to,
Yeah.
encourage the fans to now get into this match and
That's
help
right.
move you forward a little bit on the advantage. It's
Right.
all very different than playing practice sets or playing
100%.
in Austin or playing wherever.
100%.
So
The young man that
the
played that Yampin that played Alcaraz. I mean, could not have played a better match. With a few injuries and what he was dealing with. I think he's like 34. They said, obviously former college player as well. Yampin was. I mean, he was. He knows he's the underdog against the world number one, and he knows that he's playing well. You have to respectfully, yet you have to speak and plug your own plug yourself a little bit, because you're like, hey guys, I'm
yeah,
trying out here. And he had no problem, like, hey, give it up for me. You know what I mean? That takes a certain
right.
level of confidence and picked the right moment to do it. The crowd could not deny him. The crowd could not deny that he was bringing it that day, nor could Carlos. And so those are moments where you don't want to piss off the number one seed, right? You don't want to poke the bear. At the same time, you want to make sure the bear knows, hey, buddy, I got some teeth too. And I think that was just a good example of, he's obviously a tour professional and been out there for several years. At the age of 34, he's not new to this, but it was great to see him seize the moment and know, you know what, you look at that at the stats and look at the scores. We didn't go 5, but I was right there with the number one player in the world, and I was going toe
Yep.
to toe, point for point with the number one player. He's better than me. I'll give him that. But I felt real good about how I performed, and maybe he's not that player that loves the center court as much as most, right? And I say that to say clearly how many center court matches has he played on? Probably not many, at his age and at his ranking. But the fact that he handled that moment so well, I was not only was I proud of him, but I was also happy knowing how many players I know don't even get to practice on those courts that often. To seize that moment's a big deal. That's the one thing I also want to mention to you, Alvin. Um, in my short time on the 4 or 5 years on the tour, you don't get to practice on those courts that much. I mean, they don't. Only the top
Right.
do, right? So there's something right there that you have to understand. Most people don't understand that. You get the regular practice courts. If you're going to play on that main court, John Cain Arena or Rod Laver or what have you, Kia Arena, then you get to practice on that court ahead of time. But most cases, how many people are that
Hmm.
comfortable playing on those main courts? Not many. You don't play on them that often. You know what I mean? So unless you got a top 4, top so seed next to your name, you're not going to play on those courts a lot, if ever. And so that's also part of the you got to use to that court, got to use to that crowd, sun. I mean, so many parts of that are different. Where some of your smaller venues, it's not quite the same.
That's an interesting point because I used to think about this. I still think about it with the sons of professional basketball players, how they seem to come into the league
Yep,
and they're so
yep.
comfortable
Steph is
right
the
away.
example. Yep,
And then Steph is the leading example here because
yep,
you've seen so many videos him as a kid shooting around in the old Hornets arena with his dad during warm-ups and stuff like that. Like it's still a
yep,
10-foot hoop, which is what they play on from age 10 on out, but shooting in an arena versus shooting in a normal gym is very different. And if you've grown up being used to shooting in that kind of
yep,
environment, I think you start to you approach basketball a little bit differently. You don't get as frazzled by that. I guess initially, at some point, everyone who stays in the league for more than a few years gets used to it
right.
and and adjust. But same thing with these professional players on the tennis side
Right.
playing in the stadiums. It's just to your point, like there's a lot more space out there. The ball comes off the racket and it sounds a little bit different, right? The sound of the crowd is something that you're not
Yep.
used to dealing with as a tennis player, especially something like Arthur Ashe Stadium, right, where it's cavernous in there. Um, yeah, but I wanted to go back to
Oof.
the just kind of like from matches, things that I've seen in matches that kind of speak to your point earlier about players coming out of the off season, whether it be a 6-week off season for some of the most players, 4 weeks for the top ones, 8 weeks for others. One
Yep.
thing that we've knocked specifically like Lerner Tien about with the serve, right, which everyone's talked about is serve. And who has obviously coming out of last year had a great year, a great first full year on tour, and the biggest point of improvement that everyone's talked about is that serve, right? But you could tell they did the
100%.
work. My man dropped 21 bombs against Giron in the first round to 10 aces. Like, what does that actually
Yep.
mean? Like, oh, he's going bigger. He's just going bigger.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
getting more aces, more double faults. Also screams, okay, you're hitting more second serves because you're going bigger on the first, and that's
Right.
that's fine. You'd love to see it. I think he went 9 aces, maybe
100%.
2 double faults in the second round match. Um,
Yep.
so that's juxtaposed to the Alex Eala serve situation, right? Like there are incremental changes or incremental improvements that are to be made every year for a professional
Yep.
tennis player. Some get it done, and
Yep.
Lerner was able to lean on his serve in the back end of that match against
Right.
Garone, whereas
Right.
Alex is still in a point where it's still something that she needs to develop. Um,
It
and
almost looked
that's
worse, Alvin. It almost looked worse. to my
Ooh.
opinion,
Ooh.
for Alex's serve. It looked softer. It looked weaker. Again, maybe a little bit of wind. You could tell on those outer courts, the fences aren't as high. And obviously stadium ain't blocking a lot of the wind. It looked worse. It looked weaker, especially on the ad side, which typically is a strong side for most lefties. When she's played some of her best tennis, she was landing a lot of those same first serves, playing with a lot of energy, playing with a lot of confidence. As I say, it looked worse. And I say the same thing for Fonseca. It just did not look like he ever could get first strike. And Zverev just completely got first strike first, right? And I felt like that was the difference in the match. So I wanted to add one last point to I have a new 5-word situation for your Grand Slam experience. Should you
Okay.
be so lucky? There's my 5 words. Should you be so lucky as to last 2, 3, 5 years on tour? Should you be so lucky to play on Arthur Ashe or Rod Laver Arena or Chatrier or obviously Centra Court at Wimbledon? Those are very hollow grounds, Alvin, for most players. And those outside the top don't see those stages often. I've known players that have been on the tour 10 years, never played a match on the top on those courts for whatever reason, right? So, and typically, if it is once or twice, it's because you're playing the 1 or 2 seed and you're going out in the first round.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
while you get that experience, you also are getting the early exit because that seed is rarely losing to you on that first round. And so those are just things you have to understand. Should you be so lucky? I think Alex and Yao are going to be fine. There's no question about that. I'm not saying anything to the contrary. They're going to be fine. Bright future ahead of both of them. They're going to fix some things and get that second serve. They're going to get healed up. You know it. They got 2 good teams around them. What I'm only saying is the average fan has to appreciate how hard that transition is. Give it up for those that have done it sooner. They have had great situations to understand. I like what you're saying about Lerner. His serve looked so much better. We were, how long have we given Coco hard time about her serve and the forehand? And she's starting to make some strides there as well. I just feel like sometimes people kind of think of the Pro Tour as this place of this destination, not this constant place of development, even the minor tweaks.
Mm.
If you can get 4 mistakes better, that's huge. If you can get your serve dialed in 2 more feet to a certain corner and lean on a first strike. If you can defend a hard strike return where a person's just going for it, stopping at your feet on a hard return down the middle, you can pick it up on the rise and deflect it open court 4 more times in a set, let alone in a game. That means the difference in you holding serve or not. And those are small incremental changes and adjustments, Alvin, that level, when you're talking about it, incremental change that small, but make that big of a difference. That's the difference in going and splitting sets and going out in 3 or routine 2 for
I
the
think
ladies.
perfect example, because I love to talk about Madison Keys. Well, I love to, and I'm afraid to, at certain times.
Yeah.
She found herself in a very precarious situation in her last match against, it wasn't McCarty Kessler, it was the other one. Kruger, Alison Kruger.
Ashley.
And so she's up 6. I think she won the first set 6-2,
6 or
something
1.
like that. So maybe 6-1.
Yeah,
She was
1 or 2.
rolling, and then found
Yep.
herself down 2-5 in the second set.
2-5.
And which, to her credit, she was also down 4-0 in the first set of her very first round match. But I think that same ability of, I remember there was one point, it might have been at 5-2 or 5-3, and Madison was serving, rocks a serve on the deuce side, right into the slot though, and Allison cranks it cross court. Maddie gets low, open stance, true hand coming straight through. Boom! They showed it in slow motion after. It was just like a clean, full extension into the
Yep.
buggy over the head, right down the line. I mean, that return might have landed
Yep.
18 inches from the baseline, and
Right.
but that's
Right.
the kicker, right? That's it right there. That's 15 years on tour right there. I've been on this
100%.
same court before, taking the same kind of heat from Marina Sabalenka in the final, and pulled the same
That's
thing.
right.
I think I might have been third set in that one, around 5-all, something like that. But yeah, those are the little things. But coming back
And to your point,
the serve part.
Ashlyn had the exact opposite happen to her toward the end of that second set. Wasn't feeling it, was a little bit tight. Realized she's let 5-2 slip through her fingers.
Yep.
Not so much slip. Maddie just came back and showed her defending champion chops. Ashlyn didn't play poorly. Maddie raised her game. And she showed a fifth and a sixth gear that only the top have. And I look at those kind of matches, to your point, good for her to keep trusting her weapons, but it also shows you if Ashlyn wants to be a top 20 player, she's got to develop those level of gears as well. Now, I say the same thing for, Peyton, who obviously won her match against the young Marchenko, but also for McCartney Kessler, who had a tough one with JPEG. They've got to start developing a second or third, even a fourth gear to their game to be able to win on a tough day when they're not playing quite as well with their A game, and be able to weather the storm of a good player. And that's all part of the development. That's all I want to say. I just want to feel like, sometimes, and I hear my juniors talk about it, I hear parents talk about it, like there's this nirvana of pro tennis, like everybody there is good and everybody there plays good all the time. You know what I mean? And it just ain't so. It's the same as everywhere else. You got to keep tweaking. There's good days and bad days. I played my best match on the second round. I somehow got through my first three. I'm playing pretty well now. I'm feeling the ball pretty well right now. And it's just with much, much, much bigger stakes and bigger courts and bigger paychecks. So, but
Well,
it's
let's stay there on
fun to
that.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, let's stay there with that McCartney Kessler, JPEG, and
Yep.
Keys versus Kruger kind of space, because we spoke a lot about in our U.S. Women's State of the Union at the end of last year. I would highly recommend, if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to that one. That these two women are right there in that being McCartney and Allison, in that.
Right.
Can they be the ones to step into that space once JPEG and Madison do matriculate off the tour, right? Whether that's, 1 year, 3 years, whatever it might be, right?
Right.
And we were very fortunate to get those matchups in the second round.
Yeah.
Almost I think they played at the same time. So I had them on multicast, like just kind of really focusing in on like, okay, where are these two younger ladies right now, and are they any closer than they were this time last year? Because I would say they both moved up the rankings. They both, McCartney's gotten herself almost damn near seeded in this event, or maybe she was seeded. She's close. And Allison wasn't that far off as well, but you could still see the gap. The gap was very obvious. And I mean, hell, McCartney got bageled in the first set, and it looked like JPEG was like, looked like JPEG was playing against a junior. Like she was blatantly just like, I'm trying things. I'm gonna bring out the drop shot early. Okay, that's working today. Any second serve sitting there going after it.
Done.
Any ball in the middle of the court going after it. It was very, I'm not going to say textbook, but it was like big sister, little sister, like, or senior versus freshman. Like, you're just not ready yet. You're just not ready yet.
Yep.
And then in the match, the other match, Keys versus Kruger, I always want to say Kessler because all these Ks. Keys versus Kruger, it was like almost looking at mirror images of the players, but like one is a more refined model of the other. And I think coming back to your point about serves, right, and how the second serve return is the biggest kind of Mendoza in women's tennis. I can't remember who was on the call, but they were talking about the difference between Maddie being able to hit that big kicker, like having a true kick serve as a second serve, where Allison, her second serve is a little flatter. She can't really run it up or out actually. And that is, when you're playing against someone as tall as Madison, that flat serve kind of sits right there in her slot. And it's like, that's no fun.
Ashlyn will have to go back and fix that piece of her game. She has a very good serve. She's going to have to go back and get that stroke. Just the same way McCartney's going to have to go back and find a way to play what I'm going to call an aggressive defense, not necessarily an aggressive neutral. She ends up hitting so many balls aggressively in the corners that if you slow the pace down a little bit on her, she's actually not as good at creating maybe her own pace and doing some other things. You could tell she was ready for JPEG to hit through the court on her. She was ready to go open stance a lot, hit through some shots. Everything her footwork look was ready for, and she wasn't looking for the off pace. To your point, the drop shot. She wasn't looking for the off pace. Maddie hit a ball on Ashland that was about looked like a 60-mile-an-hour second serve, and she almost fell into the court on a second serve. Those are just veteran tactics, that you see from a player that's been there, that knows, I know what you're looking for, and here's what I'm going to give you. And so those are the things that, again, to get enough seasoning, to be a tour professional, those are things you're going to have to get. And I feel those two are going to be just fine. All three of them, Peyton as well, are going to be just fine. I was happy to see them get to this point. I was also, and you and I talked about this several podcasts ago, about the litmus test of five in the world, the litmus test of what Jessica Pegula is, and what she, and obviously, and same with Madison Keys. They are the litmus test of, you want to be good? Let me show you what good is. Right? You want to be top five? Let me show you what top five is. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like, and you don't dip. And the beauty of them being American is that they have these players as big sisters slash, hitting partners slash, and who knows, maybe down the road, maybe even some level of as Maddie benefited from Lindsay Davenport, right? Maybe they'll be even on the other side of the basket from them at some point. Who knows? But I say it to say they've got a lot of bright spots ahead of them with that think tank, of players, and that whole repository of good players around them to help them get better. I think JPEG even played with McCartney in doubles this tournament, right? So those are things that they're only going to get better. I feel like Coco got a lot better because of JPEG in those early years. You know what I mean? I don't think enough is said about what she did for Coco's early start. Now, don't get me wrong, Coco kicked her own doors down, but that early doubles pairing gave her a lot of confidence, gave her a lot of matches, helped her feel like she's belonged. She's done her own thing since then, and I'm not saying by any means that she was helped. I'm just saying she benefited, right, from some of those early experiences, especially being a younger player, 17, 18 on the tour, just really helped to settle her down. And obviously she had some great success with McNally as well. Coco did, but I feel like that settles you and kind of gets you into a nice thing. So maybe the same situation will happen for McCartney and Ashland as well as they go through it. So bottom line, great things to come.
And I just want to kind of go back to that, because that's a good point about doubles helping, getting experience, being able to partner with someone. Kind of tangentially related to the conversation about the serve that we were just having. Getting to the Pro Tour is not the end all be all. Staying there is the next part of the job, and making those incremental tweaks, both tactically and technically, is part of that job, right? And so when we talk about someone like Ashlyn Kruger, can she make those changes? I'm sure she absolutely will. For her, it's not necessarily even a change. It's adding this to her game. She's a tall girl who's come through the U.S. system. Like, has she necessarily needed a kick serve? It's like, no, probably not. But now she does. We are here now. This is something she needs. But I want to speak to the fact that in the same way that Lerner Tien has improved his serve, I think Alex Eala will improve her serve, because this is what professional players do. Coco as well. Like, let us not remember that two players who are considered to have one of the best serves on the men's and women's tour respectively would be Alexander Zverev and Aryna Sabalenka. Go back just 3 years. Both of them had horrendous issues with their serves, right? Like, 100%. These are things that, if addressed, can be handled, can be 100%. Worked out. They're all, Carlos has gotten a lot of, Carlos Alcaraz has gotten a lot of attention lately for the kind of the changing of his serve technique over the offseason, and it starts to look a lot like Novak's serve. And he called it, the first time I ever heard this term, but I love it, technical drift. It's like technical drift. So naturally, he's like, just over time, like as you're working on things, other things start to show up, and the serve evolves. Roger had some slight tweaks in his serve along the way. I think Novak has obviously had tweaks. You look at the 20 years he's been on tour, he's had 3 different serves. Rafa, as he got older, added more MPHs to his serve by continually to tweak it. You look at Rafa winning his first French Open and Rafa winning his last French Open. That serve didn't look the same player. So I think, to your point about players being on tour and continuing to get better, continuing to change, it's going to happen, and it is no different than a junior player. We've got to make technical adjustments as we change as players, right? These guys are getting, if the player's getting stronger on the Pro Tour or needs to do something because the game's gotten faster and they need to make an adjustment, or they've gotten older, right? Their bodies are different. Like all these things, impact how we hit a tennis ball and how we perform on a tennis court.
Agree.
Kind of quickly wanted to go back maybe to American players in the third round, and maybe two of them that I've been really impressed with, one on the men's side, one on the women's side. Ethan Quinn. Ethan Quinn's doing the thing. In the third round, he beat Talon Griekspoor in the first round, straight sets. He beat Hubie in the second round, straight sets. Playing some good ball.
Playing some very good ball.
I
will say in that match, I watched a good bit of it, Alvin. I will say Hubie did not play classic Hubie, which is not Ethan's fault. He gave him more than enough chances to break him on multiple occasions. Hats off to Ethan for staying the course.
Especially
I will
that first
say
set.
this. Oh my God. The second wasn't much. There was three different service games, Alvin, where he defended breakpoint down 3 times in each game. 3 times. So that's not a great thing, and that's something that will certainly get exposed. You hope that was his lesser match, that he wasn't playing as well. I think getting through those yips and getting through those situations, he's able to do it. I got to say, as when he was firing, it looked great. I mean, his forehand is so loose and so clean. When his serve out wide on the deuce is money. I mean, I absolutely love his game and love his smoothness to him. I like his game. I like his looseness out there. He's just it was fun to watch him. Who's your pick on the women's side? That was my who are you? And don't say Madison.
No. I tell myself that it's Iviovic. It's Iviovic. Yeah, Eva coming into this event, right? She finaled Hobart right before the event. I mean, like 2 days before the event, and then comes in and she's just smack on it. She's smack on it. She's like, I am legit. I am top 20 all day. Last year was not a fluke. I'm here to do things, and she's got herself a really big test in the next round against Jasmine Paolini. And for someone who hasn't been a full-time tour player for, I mean, Indian Wells last year was kind of her like coming out party. I think she qualified in that event. She's already played Jasmine twice, which is wild. She played Jasmine at Indian Wells, lost to her in 3. Paolini up 2-0. But Eva took a set off Paolini at Indian Wells, and then Jasmine beat her 3 and Jasmine beat her 3 and 3 at US Open. So those two events happened 6 months apart from each other. You can take from that what you will. I will say that will
the fact that she's getting a third crack at it,
I will be watching.
Right. The fact she's getting a third crack at it already means a lot. I mean, you don't get seeds often, and when you do, you usually lose. So the fact that you're getting a third crack at it within a year's time tells me that you're doing something right, because you don't face those kind of seeds. It's an interesting point, and some of you, some of the listeners and viewers who are familiar with UTR, who are familiar with tennis recruiting, right? I used to always, about every year, I would always have a parent and junior meeting, and I would go over their tennis recruiting. And you got your blue chips, you got your 5 stars, you got your 4 stars, right? They also have this little small graph. How have you done against blue chips? How have you done against 5 stars? For most players that are 3 stars, Alvin, you've probably never played a blue chip. You just, as the numbers work out numerically, you've never played them. You've never seen them. You're not in the same events. If you did, it was a kid 2 years younger. You played a blue chip who was 12 playing up in the 14s, if you're in that, or 14s in the 16s and so on. That said, 4 stars have played maybe 1 or 2, right? 5 stars have played them off and on, and maybe you're 1 and 7, maybe you're 0 and 3. Who knows? But that tells me, when I see that graph, I know where you are. When you tell me you are, in this case, against a blue chip, that you are, let's just say, 0 and 5, and you've been on tour for a year, you've gotten to play them 5. I don't look at the 0. I look at the 5. You're starting to trend pretty well. You know what that usually tells me, Alvin? That your 5 star is probably 10 and 6. You just haven't found a way to really handle the top blue chips yet. Give me one more crack. I'm closing the gap. I'm getting there. And guess what always happens? That player ends up being a blue chip themselves one day if they're not already in their own age group. I say it because you give me a person that has had zero cracks at the blue chips, they're probably not getting there anytime soon. You give me a player with zero cracks at the blue chips and maybe one or two cracks at the fives, you're pretty much where you are. Just deal with that unless you plan on making some major changes. And I think in the tour it's no different. It's just another level of tournaments, like we said, just bigger stage and bigger paychecks. So I really like this about this Eva Jovic. I'm happy to see her going this route. To me, I think it's a great situation. Happy to see other players. I know you got some players mentioned here. You got Haley Baptiste is starting to kind of make some make a little bit of depth and some more of a run in some of these Grand Slams. Unfortunately, she plays Coco, I think, coming up. I'm looking forward to, and we talked about this. There are so many of those players on those outer that 17 through 32 that I knew. I'm like, these players ain't gonna make it. These players, they're that difference between 32 and 42, it ain't that big. And I want to, and I don't want to speak and lay shade on anybody also on the outer realm, but there's a bunch of those players that I feel like, yep, I called that one. You know what I mean? And those listeners and viewers who saw the previous podcast will know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the other side of the seeds story. As we open up this podcast talking about the top seeds have been relatively unscathed. Across the 16 top seeds on both the men's and women's side, we've still got, so that's 32 total top seeds. We've still got 28 of them playing. Like that's pretty solid, right?
Solid.
But if you
Especially
look 17 through 32,
right.
Yeah,
Five
which
of
is
those,
like
right? How
pros,
many?
pros showed up ready to go. Actually, let's do this. Before we start to cut to the back end of this, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the matches that we're looking forward to seeing. And we're back. All right, so we're gonna pop through some of the third round matches that we are interested in looking at. We kind of took a trip around the world there, or a trip around Melbourne, if you will, in the opening. But Mensik versus Quinn. We talked about Ethan. Jakob is playing some, I think, pretty disciplined tennis right now. I finally got a chance to watch your boy Yodar. They played in the second round. That was a fun match. Yodar's that kid is Rafael Nodar from España. Anyone who's 18 years old named Rafael, I'm pretty sure I understand the genesis of that one some 19 years ago when that child was born. But that'll be a fun one. Looking forward to seeing, can Mensik solidify himself as, no, I am legit. What happened in Miami was not an outlier. I think getting to the fourth round of a Grand Slam convincingly would be something that we're looking to see from him. And then on the opposite side of that coin would be Ethan. Can he pop through? Like, can we get one of these? Let's if we're third round is great for him. I think that's if he had third round in every Grand Slam this year, I think he's going to take that. But what's cooler than the third round?
Right.
Fourth round. Yeah.
Fourth round.
That's one of my favorites. What about yourself?
You know what? And I'll pull off. You have in some of your notes here one of my this match here to me is going to be absolute make it or break it. Demon and Tiafoe. I mean, that's going to be an absolute. Where are we going? You know what I mean? That to me is where are we going? I mean, are we doing this or not? For either of them, it's unfortunate that this match takes place on Demon's home turf. I could see the same match happening on the U.S. Open. I could even see a rematch of this match happening at the Open, to be honest, just the way they're seeding and the way things could work out. And I could see it being a 5-setter in both places. I could see Demon winning this at 5. I could see Francis winning it at 5 in the U.S. For relevancy and so on. I like that one. I'll be honest, the rest of the matches that we're trying to look at here, I don't know. There's just so much. Cilic and Ruud. I want to see that match.
That'll be a good one.
Ruud's playing some good ball again, man. He's healthy. He looked good today against Minaur. Cilic is never never not a professional. You know what I mean? And he's going to give you
just
everything he's
showing up
got.
at Grand Slams the last
Some of
year or
the
so,
other
just like
matches, I mean,
consistently banging third rounds on Grand Slams the last few years. It's like
100%, 100%.
weird renaissance. We forget that he's a Grand Slam champ.
Right, right. And I feel like maybe the other one, if I had to give, I think Musetti and Mahatch, any doubts I had of Musetti not being top 6 in the world were done when I saw him play another Lorenzo, uh, uh, and who
Sonica,
has a
yeah.
massive serve, massive forehand, and he played Lorenzo like it was like it was a lesson. I mean, he played him like, let me tell you what I've learned in the last couple of years, Lorenzo. This is what you might want to take some notes. You got your phone? Put the phone over there and press record, and let me show you this. That way you can refer to this the next time you want to talk about getting top 10. And he just routined his countrymen. And I said to myself, Donegal, Kaboli, and who's the other, the guy that just played?
Even Darderi.
Darderi.
Yep.
You got some work to do. You got some work to do.
To that point, I was watching that match and it reminded me of like when the varsity team scrimmages the JV team.
Right.
It's like we're operating off the same playbook here. We all know each other, but we also know that there's a class difference here. And I didn't think it would be that stark, but it was so stark. Like,
yeah.
Musetti just like they both were walking around the court like they both knew who was on the A team, who was on the B team when it comes to the Italian pecking order. And I mean, anytime you heap praise on Lorenzo Musetti, I want you to make sure you say it with your chest, Torrey Hawkins. Say it with your chest. I want to go back. To the Tiafoe de Minaur. You see, I don't let you get any more words in about Lorenzo.
I know it, and I gotta be careful not to give you too much ammunition.
It's not about me. Let the tennis speak for itself. I want to go back to Francis versus Alex de Minaur because you referenced it like, you know, it's unfortunate that this match is happening in Australia on home turf for de Minaur. It could be different if it was the U.S. Open. I think that's the crux of why this match needs to happen right here, because that is also the crux of the Francis Tiafoe conundrum. That all good things that happened to Francis Tiafoe happen in Flushing, right? It's like, no, it needs to happen other places. And that's what he was talking about. And that's what we've been talking about. So like, yeah, in my notes, I was like, you know, all right, this is everything that he said, specifically on like Andy Roddick's podcast, everything that he said about coming to work on days you don't want to work and showing up in the events that, you know, showing up outside of the US Open. Okay, boom. Right here, you are not the crowd favorite. Your ranking is put yourself in a position where you're playing a top 10 seed in the third round. Okay, fine. Let's get it done. And I feel like Alex is going to come into this match like, I expect to win this match, and I also expect Alex to win this match.
Yep.
But if Francis expects to win these types of matches, then this is the one that he needs to win.
100%.
Please prove me wrong.
Put up or shut up is an old one that we haven't used in tennis in a while. This is that match for Francis. He's got a whole year to do it, but as far as I'm concerned, if he doesn't, he's on the other side of things. We'll put one more in that same category, and that is for the beleaguered Sasha Zverev, who goes up against the always crafty Cam Norrie. And that one is another put up or shut up. Demon should dispatch Francis for everything being equal, him being a tad faster, age and so on, and the home crowd.
And he's at his peak right now. Like he's at his peak right now.
Playing great right now. That one, and if anything, to me, if Francis found a way to take it 5, I would actually have a lot of respect for his upside this year, because that's a very potent top 10 player at his home turf, at his home slam, right? 100%. If it goes straights, I wouldn't be surprised, but it's just a matter of who plays the best tennis. And again, if it goes 5 and Demon wins, well, if he beats Demon, that tells me Francis has another gear left in the tank.
Okay.
Cam and Sasha, different story. Neither are from Australia, right? Neither have a home crowd advantage. And neither are, this will sound weird for me to say, it's all on Alex's, it's on Sasha to lose. Cam matches up well to his game. They both got very solid backhands. It's a very weird match, and they both are big servers with good backhands, and neither of them has a huge forehand. This will be an interesting match. And the fact that it will take a while, over which I agree with you, but it will also take starch out of Alex should he go far. And his fitness has always been pretty strong. It's
Yep.
just injuries and lingering things that he's been dealing with over the years that I don't like this being a match that could create a death of 1,000 cuts. He doesn't need a lot to take him down to 80% anyway. He didn't have his 100% isn't very potent at the high end. So I'm worried about what a loss like this to a potential loss might say for Alex. He's already under my hot seat, so to speak, but I also feel like this is a very difficult matchup. If you told me he was playing somebody like Impeshi Pericard or somebody who was just, had a Riley Opelka who can play very good at different times, it's a tough matchup for anybody because of his height and his serve. I'd say, yeah, but Alex has great return, so he'll figure that one out. This one here is just one of those tactical matches where just don't like what lack of a weapon does in this scenario off the forehand wing because Alex is not the type to hit a bunch of huge serves. He's not the type to go for a lot of returns. Cam's pretty solid mentally and pretty solid with errors. Not gonna give you a lot either. And I feel like he's an opportunist. He'll get to net when he can. He likes to shovel that backhand low on you. He likes to hit that funky forehand. He plays like a weird lefty. He's like Jay-Z. I'm awkward. I box lefty. He's that weird kind of player. But he's going against one of the best backhands of all time, and I mean, I think Zverev starts off backhand cross courts and rallies in warm up. I mean, which no one does, right? He just loves the backhand, he sleeps on his left side. I mean, that's just what he does. So I just feel like it's going to be a very tough match. And I would love, love, love to see Alexander Zverev dispatch Cam in the straight sets that a top 4 seed should do. I just don't know if I'll see it.
Well, it kind of you look at their matchups in recent years. So like head to head, all time, it's 6-0 Zverev to Norrie, right?
Right.
But within that, and within I say 5 of those 6 matchups, they've had at least one set go into a tiebreaker, right? So we do have some evidence here that they do play each other tight while the wins and losses are pretty one-sided.
Right.
2 years ago, Australian Open 2024, Zverev beat Norrie in 5. 7-6 in the third. I mean, 7-6 in the fifth. It's legit.
Which speaks to the problem of Zverev, not to Cam's upside.
Right. Yeah. It's a weird matchup, and you can't really draw much from a 7-6 in the 5th set victory. Like you're right there, right? There are points. We're separated by a handful of points here.
Right.
But in that matchup, I see it like Cam can't really get much out of going lefty forehand to the backhand, right? Because Alex would prefer to be there. But then Cam's backhand doesn't get much rise either. And if you want to, bother Alex on the forehand, like truly bother him, you need to keep him behind the court with the ball out of his strike zone. But
hitting forehands.
Hitting that down into like a ball that's sliding, and he's gonna be able to catch that kind of in the slot. Like that's what I'm saying. It's just gonna be long. It's gonna be drawn out. It's just gonna be drawn out. I probably won't even watch it, to be honest with you. It's just gonna be a long, drawn out match with a lot
I'll watch one set because that one set will be like all the other sets. It's gonna be
right. Pop in for sets 1 and 3, and then call it.
Right. And both of and you have to appreciate. I have been a huge Sasha Zverev fan. I still feel like he stubbed his toe against Dominic Thiem in that COVID year. I say this as a jilted Sasha Zverev fan, not as a critic. I am as was once. He's my he was my next best. I feel like I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. You were the chosen one. It was said you would bring balance to the Force, and it just never happened. So I want to make sure the fans out there realize this. It's not haterade. It's overdue. To me, some of his benefits, some of his offerings to the pro tour at the high level.
Understood. Let's bounce around a couple more matches on the men's side before we catch to the women.
Yep.
Bublik versus Echeverry.
Oh,
Do you believe in this version of Mr. Bublik? Because he now looks like a professional. I am
he does.
10 seed, top 10 player, showing up, cleanly getting through matches in the first 2 rounds of the slam, like he plans on being here on day 12.
Yep. And Echeverry needed the crowd and a few sets to get through. Do I buy it? No. Bublik is still mercurial. He's still one day to the next. He is 2 or 3 missed drop shots from losing it, in my opinion. Do I think he will win this match? Yes. Do I think he will have this kind of staying power for other matches? No. And I'm giving him the heads up because he's playing clean and because Echeverry just won 5. Just feel that heat in Australia is no joke. I think Echeverry comes in this next match a little bit. He'll come out solid for the first couple of sets. I just see a dip in form, and I think Bublik will take advantage of that more so than it being a head-to-head situation. I think that other match, 5 setters are emotionally and physically draining, probably emotionally more than anything else. And I just feel like Bublik will take advantage of it. If you were to say, I won't look too far ahead. If there's another match coming up, that match would be one.
Winner plays the winner of Minaur and Tiafoe.
Now that's when we'll know.
Bublik's got
Minaur's
number as of late.
Right.
Yeah,
that's when I believe he gets through this match and takes Minaur.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking, and that's again way too early to look at both. But that's you see what I'm saying? Right now, he can be an opportunist in this match.
And that's the beauty of getting all this chalk in the opening rounds on the men's side, is that we are setting ourselves up for after this round, it's about to be on. It's about to be
It's on already.
On.
It's only
it is on. It on. We're around 32. We've got I think 8 matches where you're and we're not even probably want to get a chance to talk about Novak versus Bublik van de Zandschulp, but Bublik's got dead eyes. He don't care. He beat Nadal in Davis Cup. I don't care you're retiring. He beat he beat Carlos here 2 years ago in the first or second round or whatever it is. Don't care. Bublik doesn't care. And I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that that's going to be a problem for Novak. I'm just saying it's not going to be a problem for Bublik. He's going to show up. He's breathing with his heartbeat at 78 or something like that, just not caring.
While running.
Exactly. Dead on the dead sprint. 2 other matches that should be just really fun, I think, for very, very different reasons. Shelton versus Vachereau.
Valentine.
And then Tommy Paul versus Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. That's going to be that's an athlete's match over there. I don't have any proclamations to make about it. It's going to be a fun one to watch. Yep. But the Valentin Vachereau just playing with house money all year, right? This is his first Grand Slam. He's seeded. In his first Grand Slam, he's seeded. So what does he do? He shows up and acts like a seed. All right, I'll just win these matches I'm supposed to win.
And dispatches people like he's supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Apparently, it's harder to get there than it is to stay there. It's just.
This would be a good match. This would be a good match for him. This would be a good match for him to test the top tenor. He had a lot of good wins in those couple of Chinese tournaments that he went through. Was it Beijing or was it? I thought it was another tournament. Shanghai, right?
Shanghai
did great. Anyway, I said to say, and Ben's looking solid. Ben is looking about as solid as you can look right now. It'll be a good match. Those are good matches to me for tennis, and it'll be a good match for Ben because, again, Ben, quiet as his kept, is becoming a tour professional and has raised his level, where his low is no longer able to. He's not having to win playing lights out. He's winning routine, holding serve routine. His returns got a lot better, Alvin. His backhand's got more solid. He's not having to go for broke on the forehand. thinking in when he needs to, hold serve without many question marks. He's just doing everything he's supposed to do, and looking like he's comfortable doing it. Basharow is a steely competitor, so I'm looking forward to that match as well.
Yep. I want to switch over to the women's side. Mboko versus Towson.
Mm.
With the winner to play the winner to play the winner between Sabalenka and Potapova. You
Mm.
assume Arena is going to be there.
Yep.
That is, I don't know how entertaining that match is going to be because both girls can hit the ball pretty hard. One is
Yep.
in a different class of mover. Victoria's a
Yep.
different class of mover than Clara. I don't know what that ends up meaning, but I think that's a match of consequence with two women, slightly different parts of their career, but still
Yep.
probably their best tennis in front of them for both of them. That one I will find time. I will find time for.
Yep. I
Hopefully
agree.
that time is before midnight, but I will definitely find time for that one. I counted Muhova out. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And here we are, third
Here we are.
round against Magda Linette.
Yep.
Pretty well favored in that match, and just what we're doing. This is
Yep.
what we're doing. If healthy, Karolina Muhova is a top 10 player. She's shown the ability to go deep at Grand Slams. She has finaled French Open, semifinal U.S. Open. Why did I assume that we weren't gonna be here?
She's also underperformed the last several slams, and I think you thought that form would continue. She's still got something in the tank. I I discounted Svitolina. I thought Elena was going to not do well. I thought she was going to be, her and Gael we're going to ride off in the sunset with the little girl and call it a day, as they may one day. But she's continued to prove me wrong. I did not like you. But again, sometimes that's why they play the matches, Alvin. That's why they play the
Oh, they played
matches.
back.
You don't know. The match that I would look at, in addition to this, what's that? Oh, yeah, yeah. The other thing I would say is I'm looking forward to Pliskova and Keys, and of course, this Mertens and Vartankova match. Does she have a little more in the tank? Was that kind of her peak the other night against a Bencic?
Bencic.
Mertens is another.
Bencic.
Bencic she's another. You know, tour veteran, you know what I mean? Probably around Bencic's age. And then, of course, obviously you got, Colin Sky versus Iga. So there's a lot of good matches in this up and coming. So many good matches. I am looking forward to those two or three in particular. I feel like Iga's just kind of quietly getting to work, you know what I mean, and like she always does. And I feel like this is we're about to, the the I feel like some of the younger players, with the exception of Eva Jovic, have started to kind of realize the elder stateswomen are as good as advertised. And now the elder stateswomen are like, okay, now I'll raise you one, I'll see you one, and I'll raise you two. In this game of high stakes poker, and I feel like it's good to see a lot of them step up to the level that they have shown. And as I said, we as the viewers are the winners in the deal.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's a good place to put a pin in it. Lots of fun matches coming up in the third round here. It's going to be a fun weekend for all of us. I think we'll probably let maybe a round or two fly by and then check in again with one another post fourth round before we start to get into the nitty gritty of this tournament. But again, TH, thank you for all you guys out there. Enjoy the matches upcoming, and we will catch you on the next one.